Hey y'all, Stephen Roselle here, Senior Technical Specialist, Maya Specialist at Autodesk, and I'm going to cover part 4 of the Time Editor demo series. So what we're going to cover here is how to use clips or reuse clips once you have them on different characters or different parts of characters. So as an example, let's say for instance I have a static pose. Now a static pose is basically almost like the equivalent of a one-frame clip, whereas if I were to take something like a clip and drag it into my scene and apply that, then what you could see is that's going to create animation, and that animation is going to drive my character accordingly. Now I can also do individual poses. So for instance, if I go back into the Time Editor, I can take a T-pose that is just saved into a file, and I can apply that, and that's going to put my character into a T-pose. And as long as that clip is active, that pose will be triggered. So if I take that pose and delete it, then I get the regular underlying animation back. Now I can do this on anything. It doesn't have to be the full body. I could, for instance, create different poses for the hands. So if I go into the library that I've created here, I've got different hand poses. So I've got a fist, I've got a two-finger point, I've got a closed hand and open hand. So let's say that I wanted to create a fist for the left hand. Well, I'm going to go in here, find my fist pose. I'm going to drag that in. And what you'll notice is that it recognizes that there are two possible solutions to this. And it gives me an option for the different namespaces that it could potentially go into. So for instance, I've got a left and a right namespace. This is the left hand. I want to apply that to the left namespace, so I apply and close. And sure enough, the joints get positioned appropriately. Now, if I wanted to apply that same pose to the other hand, I would just simply drag and drop this in, and this time I would switch that to right and apply, and now you'll see that pose will apply to the right hand. So I can create these different poses and I can attach them to different namespaces, and then within the namespace they will just find all of the appropriate connections that they need to make. So let's do this one as left and apply, and now you can see that when it gets to that pose, then I have the two-finger pose. So that's basically the process of not only working with poses, but also of working within different namespaces. So you can also share animation between different characters using a similar approach. So here we've got an example of an animation that has been applied to a proxy rig for a character. So you can see the gray kind of simplified version of the character, and the animation is driving that character. And now I want to basically put that into a clip and then use that clip on the main character. So what I can do is grab the hierarchy of the character I want to create a clip from. I'll go in here to add animation, and we'll dump that into clip form in the Time Editor. So now this clip represents the same animation. Now I want to take that clip and I want to apply it to my main character, basically. So what I can do, if I drag and drop that clip into my scene and it recognizes different namespaces, then it can attach to any one of them. Once it's in my scene, you can also go through a remapping process. So I'm going to go into the remapping tool here, and I'm going to remap from the proxy character to the main character. So when I do that, what you'll see is it brings up a UI, which I'll talk about in a minute, but when I apply, then it's going to try as best it can to hook up all of the animation from the proxy character to the main character. So in some cases, this works fine. So for instance, it looks like the knee here is okay, because the knee is the exact same name. If we look at the channel box here, it's proxy : LF leg. Here it's the same thing, except it's main character : LF leg. So what I want to do now is basically find the parts that didn't map. So one that I can tell is the global transform, the master transform, which is pushing the character forward. Also, you can see that the hands are not connected. So for whatever reason, those didn't connect, and I can actually tell by just selecting them and looking at the names. So in this case, I have proxy placement, and in this case, I have main character master. So they're in different namespaces, and they're using different node names. So I can correct that through a remapping process. So if I right-click and I redo this again, I just deleted the other one, and I remap to the main character, it will pop up this window with a default mapping. So it will do the best it can to find all the connections that it can. But I can manually override that. So I can go in and say, okay, well, I know placement is actually called master. So I'll select placement and master. I will map those. And then I know the left hand is off. So I'm going to take the LF hand, lowercase, and I'm going to map it to left hand, uppercase. And then the same with the right. I'll take the RT hand and I will map that to the right hand, which is all uppercase. Now that gets added to the list, you can see. And when I continue, now it will correctly match between the different characters. So now I have a new clip that has been remapped to that character. And at this point, I can reuse that over and over again. So what I want to do now is just quickly go into the script editor and just point out that all this was done with commands. So you don't have to manually do this. So if you have like a naming convention that you want to be able to remap kind of more automatically, you can use simple commands, whether that be through Mel or through Python, in order to do that remapping in more of an automated fashion. So hopefully that makes it a little bit clearer and easier to understand in terms of dealing with animation with different characters or different versions of the character and moving that animation back and forth. Thanks. Bye.